Hi, welcome back to Scary Cool, episode 2. Thank you for tuning in for episode 1. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. I love all 5 of you. You're the MVPs. I know I said I wasn't going to make an episode every week, but then there was like an 11-hour TikTok ban, and all of a sudden a lot of time opened up for me. So here we go. We're recording. And I do need everyone to know this is the 3rd time I've gone to record this, because the first time my dog barked, and she might bark again, and you know what? This time we're letting it ride. The second time my Zoom ran out of batteries. Yeah. And the 3rd time, what happened the 3rd time? Oh, yeah, the 3rd time I forgot to put an SD card. So we're really doing well, and there's no mental anguish happening over here. Everyone is tip-top and doing their best. But speaking of the TikTok ban, that sort of brings me to why I wanted to even record this episode, which you probably don't know, but I think I said in episode 1, I hate recording solo episodes. I'm trying to get better about it, but it's so difficult to just talk by yourself for so long. You know what I mean? With no guest to banter off of. But I just had to get out my feelings about the TikTok ban, and the bigger thought that it popped up in my brain, which is, why are we all so isolated and lonely and disconnected from each other? And you know what the TikTok ban plays into with regards to that, and what else I feel like is contributing to sort of this really hyper individualistic life that we're all living, and a consequence of that is this extreme loneliness that most people you talk to are feeling. And I can speak for myself. When TikTok went dark last night, I turned into a version of myself that I really never want to see again. It wasn't pretty. I felt horrible. And I don't think it was just the physical dopamine plateau that happens, and I'm sure that played a part in it, but I think a lot of it was the instant feeling of being disconnected from a community. It's almost like a PTSD response to what happened in COVID, which is when I got TikTok, and when most people got TikTok, I think, unless you were on Musical.ly, then you're a real one, but I wasn't. And, you know, in COVID, obviously, we all had to be isolated and away from each other, and physically keep ourselves very, alone and in our own little world. And, you do what you have to do, even though that was incredibly difficult to do. We all had to do it. Most of us did it, except for the influencers going to Saddle Ranch, but I digress. And then, the world opens back up, and yet a lot of people that I talk to are still feeling this intense disconnection from people around them, and this lack of connection and lack of meaningful relationships. And I think there's a lot of different reasons that go into that, but I'm going to talk about a few that I was reflecting on in the 11 hours I didn't have TikTok. Because apparently, let's see, it's January 19th, right now is 1:48 p.m., and TikTok is working again. I don't know. I political theater on all sides, and it's just wonderful. I really love it. I'm enjoying being along for that ride. But in the hours that it was down, and I was reflecting on, why am I so upset about losing this app that I really don't post a lot to? I'm more of a silent passenger on the TikTok train. I like comments. I like videos. I never comment on videos really. And I upload sporadically. I only had uploaded maybe 5 videos for this podcast channel, and on my personal, just a few. But I was feeling such a grave loss. I'm not even one of the influencers who has millions of followers, and yet I'm feeling this loss of community. So taking a minute just to reflect on that, it brought me to this idea of working so hard to build this parasocial relationship with the other users. The creators, yes, but the other users, just in the comments, responding to each other, liking things, and seeing all these like-minded people, and not really having to know much about them. It was a bridge, I think, for a lot of people to feel like they had these friendships, and to now not have them And to have a thought and not, plaster it online and, you know, not that that's an amazing thing to do, but, a lot of times you feel so, I touched on my last episode, there's so much shame with these very normal thoughts and things that happen as a human being. And we've, like, everything has become a taboo where it's like you don't even want to talk about them. And then you hop on an app like TikTok, and in what seems like real time, you find a video of someone expressing exactly how you feel, maybe in words that you couldn't find yourself. And you make that little brain connection, and you're like, oh my God, that's exactly how I feel. Like, I feel more normal. I feel seen. I feel heard. I feel like there's this outlet, and it's a wonderful thing. And it's like both physical things, because there's many people who have used that app to get, diagnosed with very real health issues, but even just in the day to day, like, if let's say I have this thought where I'm trying on jeans and I'm like, I don't understand why I'm a different size in every store. Like last week, I swear to God, I was, this size. Now this week I'm that size. Like, I don't know. I feel like something's happening. And then you open TikTok and boom, there's, a woman with thousands and thousands of followers saying the exact same thing. Like, hey, jeans are labeled weird. They don't fit us all correct. Like, you have to ignore the label. And you just feel that little acknowledgement of like, oh my God, see, I was just saying that. Oh my God. It's like kibitzing with the girls. And yet you don't have to be with the girls. It's like, it almost replaces that weekend brunch date with a group of friends, or that after work powwow with a group of friends. Because you feel like you're kibitzing and kind of getting the scoop from these parasocial relationships and these people online that I believe become very real relationships. You can go on TikTok and you just feel like a whole world is open to you, not only politically with people who make very, very well educated and amazing political content to keep you in the know of what's happening, because our news is owned by all the same corporations and they feed us what they want to feed us and this and that. And, you have these independent creators who are like, hey, did you know this, that, and the other? And, you can sort of start to form your own opinion on things, and it's wonderful and enlightening and potentially world changing, because there's a lot of people on that app who were like, I was a, Christian, straight woman, Republican voting, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm, out of the closet and I'm non-binary, or I found this, and, you find aspects of yourself. But there's also even the small things of like telling you where to shop for the best jeans. Here's the best restaurants in your area. Here's an experience you have to try that maybe you wouldn't know about. And it's like, I feel like, that's the same sort of ideas and topics that we would talk about in, with a group of friends. If we were all here in person, sitting circle time, crisscross applesauce on the floor, sharing what our day was and what we like and what we don't, this and that, the conversation would kind of end up being the same. And, ever since it's like people work crazy hours and people can't, afford to really go out and this and that, your world gets a little bit smaller with all of those things. At least speaking for me, it's like the cost of everything goes up, 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 and your pay stays the same. And, it's a crisis we're dealing with across the whole country. So, you start to cut back a little. You don't really go out for drinks as much or out to dinner or this and that. And your friends' schedules start to not line up because they're going through the same type of thing, or people move away and, things happen that are out of our control, and you sort of lose that immediate community. And with that, you feel like you lose those conversations, and you start to feel so disconnected of like, where is everyone shopping? Or like, where is the restaurant everyone wants to go to? Like, I don't know anything. And then boom, an app like TikTok comes in, and you feel so much more informed from the non-important small things, from, about what makeup to buy or what shade is great or what shoes were awesome, all the way up to like, who are you voting for? And like, what are we doing with, the rise of fascism in the US? Like, anything you want, it could be found on that app. That being said, I know people are going to say, well, there's other apps, go to YouTube and this and that. And I want to talk about that, because I was on YouTube last night and I love YouTube. It's an amazing platform, changed the game. I've been on it for over a decade. It's wonderful. But it doesn't give you that same, it doesn't scratch that same itch. The thing about TikTok is it's so real time. You can stitch a creator's video. You can make a video responding to a comment. You can see like, exactly when people are commenting on things. Like, you feel like you're in it as it's happening. There is an aspect to TikTok that really makes you feel like you're there when the action is happening, and that you're involved, and that it's unfolding right in front of you. And also the fact that it's short form content, with I think the longest you can upload is like 10 minutes. it's much easier for creators to upload every single day or multiple times a day. So you feel like you're constantly in the know about the latest thing that's happening because you can film it with your phone, edit it on your phone, post it right away. And then, with YouTube, those things really don't exist, right? There's a longer period of time between filming something, editing something, getting it even on the platform takes a lot longer. If the algorithm is going to push it out, because I will say this, their algorithm is amazing. And I find so many amazing videos that are pushed to me on my For You page that I never would have thought to search for. Whereas on YouTube, I feel like if you're searching for something, you can kind of find what you're looking for, but it's not really going to be thrown out to you as much. My algorithm suggests a lot of the same videos to me by creators I'm already subscribed to, which is great. And I love them, but I don't really understand how I'm supposed to find other like-minded people or, other types of creators if the algorithm keeps pushing the same video at me every single time I log in. So, and also the fact of, like I said, because of that lag time with editing and posting, through other social media platforms, you feel like there's details that are not going to be addressed in that video because since she filmed that video, this, that, and the other has happened. And, once again, that lag time catches up to you, and it's just not feeding the same beast as TikTok, where it's like constant. You're never behind. You always have the latest. You always have the greatest. It's like a really content machine that I feel like there is just no other that can compete with it. And because you're so in it and you're so up to date real time, it kind of makes you feel like you're involved. Like even as a silent viewer, which I really was on TikTok, I never really commented on the comments or any of that. I still felt like I was sort of in it because it's like, oh my God, posted 30 seconds ago and it's responding to this comment, or it's stitching that person's video that she just posted, and everyone's talking about it, and it's the most real-time information or the most real-time type of social platform that really is out there. And to have it taken away, you sort of feel like, oh, I'm going, it's almost like you don't miss what you never had, but when you had it and then they're going to take it away from you, the panic of like, how am I going to get my real-time updates on, X topic that I find very important? And how am I going to feel connected to this community if, I have to watch this creator on a platform that doesn't allow for the same type of social connection that TikTok does? Like, they can't really, it's just not the same. They can't really make videos directly responding to my comments the same way as TikTok can. And it's just not the same platform. It takes a long time to upload the video. And, you feel like, that's quite a loss. And it sort of goes into also why like reality television is sort of, unless it's like a Housewives type of show, which Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, thank you so much for what you do for us. Okay. I love that show so much. I love the Real Housewives. The Salt Lake City finale was last week. It was beautiful and I loved it. And those women are giving everything for us. But that aside, there's a lot of reality television concepts that kind of don't work anymore because it takes so long to produce, cut, edit, and then air on a TV schedule. Where social media, it's like, girl, just film what happened that day and post that day. I don't need to see what happened, 8 months ago, because by the time the episode is airing, I've read about it in some gossip blog, or, I've seen TikToks about it or YouTube videos about it already, and I kind of have the details. And so by the time the episode airs, your interest is already sort of lost. And it's, I'm sure detrimental to a lot of reality television production chains. But it really kind of goes hand in hand with why YouTube content is going to have to change as well. And then barring TikTok, like let's say we don't even talk about the TikTok ban because, hey, it's 2:00 on January 19th and it's working again. So let's say, TikTok is back and it's wonderful and, we don't lose out on that community anymore. I still have the thought creep up of like, there's still a lack of connection in a lot of entertainment that we consume. I mean, let's take streaming real quick. Let's take a look at the streaming model for a second. It used to be these shows that were off of network television for a while. You can then stream them and you could watch them whenever, whatever episode at whatever time. And it's wonderful. Like a show like Parks and Rec. Well, it's been off. Obviously, there's no new episodes coming out. The people who have seen it have seen it. They want to watch it 1,000 times. I'm one of them. I'll watch it like every October because I don't know why. I love the fall harvest season. But that was sort of like, oh, this is like great. I could stream it whenever, and that's the good part of it. But then you have the streamers making their own, I don't want to say syndicated because it's a bad word for it, but their own content that's, broken up into seasons and episodes. And it's like, like let's look at like Santa Clarita Diet, which Netflix, you canceled that and you broke my heart. We'll just leave that at that because I have strong feelings about that show. But it's a new show. It's a new concept with new episodes, and they release them all at once. And, some people love that. They want to binge it, and that's fine, and that's cool. But you're taking away the social aspect of television. When television was like just on, linear television, and you had to have cable to watch it. One of the best things about it was it's one episode a week. And the audience has time to digest what happened in that episode, think about it, reflect on it, talk to their friends about it before the next episode comes on. It was a social thing. Like when The Sopranos was airing and it's, once a week, first of all, people made sure they're home. They have watch parties with their friends, who at that time was paying for HBO. So it was like, everyone chip in, watch at this person's house. So, you watch it together. That's a social viewing. And then all week at the water cooler or at drinks with friends or wherever you're going, wherever your third place is, which we'll talk about third places as well, but wherever you're going, you get to talk about, like, did you see what happened on The Sopranos? Did you see, what happened on Friends last week? And once again, you can talk, I thought that this meant that. I thought Tony's action here meant this, or, I thought, this about the episode, and you're sharing ideas and information and opinions, and you're, once again, building relationships with people. Oh, we watched the same show. Like I overheard this group of people talking about Sopranos. I went over there and I wanted to put my 2 cents in. And then, we all have time to digest what just happened before we're hit with even more exposition. Another episode that's going to add on to that story we just watched. It's about a viewer experience, right? And that's what streaming is lacking, is there is no viewer experience. Streaming is, here's all the episodes, watch them when you want, binge them in a night, watch them in a month, up to you, which sounds great, right? But when you have half your audience binging in one day and the other half who's like, no, I'm watching one a night or whatever my viewing schedule is, it all of a sudden turns into, instead of, did you see the new Sopranos last night? Let's talk about it, into, no, don't tell me anything I haven't watched yet. It's in my queue. You binged it, but I'm not there yet. I'm only on episode 7. And that's it. The conversation ends because you don't want to spoil it for those people. And those people binged it, so they're just waiting for you to catch up. And then, what could have been a really great social interaction, which is also marketing for your show, because the more people are talking about your show and what happened last week on your show, the bigger buzz you're building around what will happen next week. So more people hopefully will tune in. You nip it in the bud, and the entire structure of like what makes a viewer experience so special is gone. You also don't have the same respect for the characters because everything also on streaming is now like a mini series, which is so annoying. Like, give me full season arcs. Let me see messy characters over a 31 episode season make mistakes, clean this up. Like, nowadays it's a dirty word to be like, oh, this loose end that wasn't tied up in this show, so that makes the show horrible. It doesn't have to. There's a lot of shows that have many loose ends. The Sopranos has many that people will be like, whatever happened with that storyline? Sometimes a show can touch on something and then never pick it up, and it's up to you as the viewer to decide, I wonder what could have happened here if the showrunners or writers wanted to put it in that direction, but maybe the reaction they got from the rest of that season made them not want to address it in the next season, or whatever happens. But when a show comes out and well, it's one season and it's only 8 episodes, why would I want to get invested in those characters? Why would I want to buy merchandise of that show and those characters? You're taking out my ability to care. I want more of the thing I like. I want to, like, sometimes it's a good thing to be mad at the characters you're watching. It doesn't have to be so perfect and so succinct. There's a time and a place for that, of course. And there's nothing worse than jumping the shark. And I get that. And I know that's like every show's fear, is that they're going to do that. But don't let the fear of that happening keep you from doing with television what it was sort of meant to do, which is bring people together to address issues, to explore themes, to have them fall in love with characters, to, give them a viewership experience that they can talk about that's worth their time. So many things these days are pulling for our time. We work long hours. We have lots of responsibilities. Our time is drained in so many ways that to sit down and be able to watch a show, give me an experience. I don't want some like, oh, well, it's 7 episodes, they're 30 minutes each. You could watch it in one day. I don't want to watch it in one day. I don't want to do that. How about that? I would like to have and know that, every Sunday or every Wednesday or whatever night you want to put it on, I'm going to watch these characters I love do something. I have 30 episodes to the season. I could talk about it that week with my friends until the next one comes out. And if you've noticed, there's been a lot of streamers now that are switching to a model of like, I'm releasing the first half of the season this date, and then like a month later, the second half of the season's coming out. Now that's smart, because I'm telling you, because they're seeing the way that TV has become so antisocial, and hopefully they're seeing that and hopefully making change to make a better experience for the viewer. Because I can tell you one thing, it's like TV lately just feels so like they just want to get the information down your throat as soon as possible in the most succinct way ever and have you love every single character. And it's like, it's making my brain hurt. I don't need, not everything needs to be that. There are some things that's perfect, but there's others that I feel like give them more episodes, give them more seasons, let them explore things they didn't know. I mean, on Friends, because that, like, let's go back to the late 90s, early 2000s of television landscape. There was many storylines that were not originally planned for that show, because it wasn't all planned out. All 10 seasons weren't pre-planned before they started airing. The writers were able to make adjustments because they relied on an audience's reaction and an audience's opinion to make certain decisions moving forward, which is part of the reason I'm sure that show is so successful. There's many behind the scenes clips you can watch where a joke doesn't get a laugh and the writers on set, because they were allowed to be on set, immediately rewrite the joke and, wait to get a laugh from the audience, and it works better. Or, people will talk about how they see chemistry between two characters before even the writers do. That happened with Parks and Rec with April and Andy. The actors had chemistry that the other people in the cast saw, and it wasn't originally planned for Andy and April to get together, but seeing the actors be able to ad-lib, be able to sort of improv with each other, and they adjusted things to allow for that storyline to take place, because they had more episodes in the season to flesh out that kind of development, and they had more seasons overall on the network to be able to really make that one of the best parts of that show, is watching that love story sort of unfold. All of this to say, which, as you could tell, I have many, many big opinions on TV, is that it's once again a social aspect that has been taken away, right? Like, I want to talk to my friends about a TV show as it's happening, that we're all waiting for the finale, that we're all excited to watch, that we can have a viewership party if we want to, that we can connect with other people about. And it just sort of doesn't work anymore, because people want to binge it, and it's like, who can finish it first and, make the best opinion video on YouTube about it, or the best synopsis video that you can just watch the synopsis. And it's like, it makes me cry. It makes me so upset, because that's not the way television is supposed to be. And it's not supposed to be all about profits like everything else in the world. You're taking away from the audience, and you're not allowing it. And then we wonder why we have so many syndicated shows like Friends still running, and people go back and watch those types of things, and like really not a lot of the new shows. And it's because it was made at a time where these things were allowed, and you didn't have to have an existing IP to get something made. because that's the other thing now is like, if it doesn't already exist and it hasn't already tested well from 10, 20 years ago, well, then we're not going to put money behind it. Studios don't want to back it. And it's like, how many spin-offs can we make of the same thing? Or how many iterations of the same concept can we possibly resurrect from way back when? There's young talent out there that has great ideas and great concepts, and we have to start giving them a chance, because guess what? That will also bring connection. Those people who are writing these things know people who are, great actors, great voiceover people, there's a network and a community even within that. So it's just another way that I feel like community building is sort of smacked down, because it's like, no, you can't do that. And if you didn't have what you love to do, like, if someone out there is like, well, I'm writing this show and I really want to get it made, and I have friends who are great writers and I have friends who are great actors, and I want to sort of build this community to take with me, it's like, no, that's not a venue anymore that you really have. So, you start to not want to go to that writers group, because no one's going to buy my writing, because they only want, existing IP and this and that. And it just kind of breaks you down bit by bit, where it's like, well, my time is precious. I don't want to give my time to this writing group because it's not going to lead anywhere, because that door feels like it's sort of been shut for young creative people. And it's just another example of not being able to facilitate like a healthy relationship with other people, because money is put before the humans that are ingesting all of this footage. And I mentioned third places when I was talking about Friends and Central Perk, and how they're always there. And I want to touch on that also for a little bit, because that's sort of like my third point in this antisocial triangle that I'm making, is we don't really have third places anymore. And you don't realize how detrimental it is to not have a third place until all of a sudden you kind of do. And it adds such a relief and such a nice aspect to your life that you're like, oh, I need this every day. A third place is basically a place, for those of you who don't know, that's not work, that's not school, that's not anything like that, and not your home. It's a third unconnected place where you can build a community and be amongst people and be social and sort of out in the world. So like a coffee shop, a church, a writer's group, a pottery class, like anything like that is considered a third place. And in a lot of older television shows, you see a third place is very important to the storyline. I mean, they're always at Central Perk and Friends, and, in Boy Meets World, I don't know where they are because I didn't watch that. But from clips I've seen, they're always at some like cafe, diner, something or other. I'm sure people will comment and tell me where they're at. I don't know the name. I'm sorry. I was a baby in 97. I wasn't watching Boy Meets World. But they're always somewhere else. They're not really always at their home. And in the year 2025, which it is, a lot of us work remote. A lot of us do a lot of things from our home. A lot of us can't afford the third place. And a lot of the third places are very unwelcoming. There's a lot of coffee shops nowadays that have like 2-hour limit. You can only sit here for 2 hours, or you have to buy this dollar worth amount of things to be able to take a chair. And, people are strapped that, the economy is not good. Puh, surprise, surprise. When is it good? But the economy is rough, and people don't have that spare money to be like, yeah, I'm going to buy this $8 latte and be able to sit in a cafe for 1 hour. It's like, you used to be able to buy a coffee. You could sit there as long as you want. There really were no rules surrounding that. And now it's like time limits. They're unwelcoming. We also are much more aware of the corporations and who they support and what they do. So it also limits the amount of third places you have, because if you don't want to support some of these really evil conglomerates, you're like, well, damn, they own every single chain of this type of place or this type of place. So like, I can't go to any of those. So you try to search for something else. But again, the pool gets smaller and smaller. And, all these reasons that these third places are starting to just vanish. Like malls were a great third place in the 80s, girl, the 90s even. And, malls are dying with online shopping and, people dispersing and living in all different types of areas because of remote work. Demographics have changed, and there's so many reasons. But at the end of the day, the malls are dying, and we know that. So, you don't have that third place anymore, because that was a great place to meet up with friends, even when I was in high school, and walk the mall, do a little shopping, eat at the food court, get a coffee. There was benches you can sit, and that was like great. You felt like you're being social. You're around so many people, even if you're not talking to so many people, even if you want to go to the mall alone, you're around so many other people. You feel social. You feel connected to the world. There's also laws in malls now that are like, are you below the age of 18? Then you can't be walking this mall without an adult. It's like, that's a crazy thing. Like, that's all I did when I was like 15, 16, 17 years old was walk the mall. So once again, it's like, that's the absence of a third place. If the mall's still even open, because like I said, they're all kind of shuttering. So when you don't have that kind of outlet of, I'm not at work and I'm not at home, I have this like, totally, what's the word? It's like, I don't want, it's like not casual, but I can't think of the word. It'll come to me. It's like Switzerland. You know what I mean? It's like non-incumbent to anything. This totally neutral, that's the word. I love that I had to think of Switzerland to get that word. But it's this totally neutral place where I can feel connected to the outside world, and I'm not working, I'm not on the clock, and I'm not in my home. And, I can be social and I can meet up with people, or I could just be around people, and it also doesn't exist. So if you've noticed, I've painted like a little antisocial triangle of all these reasons people are feeling disconnected, and all the reasons that there's so much loneliness. And there's many, many, many other reasons. I mean, we can make a shape that, would give God himself nightmares with all the points of that it would have of why people are so lonely and things are so horrible. I mean, I know that there's never really it's been a while since we've had this type of divide amongst the general public on a lot of major things, and people feel really, it's a divisive time. But more intimately, the community building, it's like, people don't approach each other anymore that much because, and that's a bad side of social media. I know for me, it's like, I don't really want to go to a bar and dance and have a good time because there's always someone with a phone out ready to try to make a viral TikTok or a viral post somewhere. And it's like, I don't want that. So you feel a little bit, more sheltered. Like you want to kind of keep yourself a little more sheltered. You don't want to approach someone because it used to be like, well, the worst they can say is no. And now there are some people who are really mean. And, you're like, well, the worst they can say is actually worse than no. They can like make fun of me. They can post about the situation online. They can do this, that, or the other. And it's like, just this fear of the unknown that's like creeping up on everyone because it seems like everything is so different and the way we connect with people has become so different, and no one really knows the new rules of how to go about it. That's just like we stay in this little isolated bubble, and then, we find community on TikTok. We reach for these apps or these parasocial relationships, and then, poof, they're gone. And we wonder why. We're like, oh my God, I need to be put in a box somewhere because I'm going to go insane. It's like, it is a very real thing. It's, as all these different venues feel like they start to close that bring you human connection and relationships and some form of companionship, you do start to feel totally lonely, and you start to really reflect on like, wow, we really are living in a really solitary world. Like there's a lot of things that used to be shared with groups of people and shared with others that are no longer shared with others. They're very much a solitary activity now, and it's sad. And I wanted to make a podcast episode about it because I know that there's probably many people who are sort of feeling the same way. And again, like, who knows? TikTok might be back. Like right now it's working. Who knows? Like, who knows what's happening? I'm sure there's some evil government plan happening to do God knows what with it. But I think it's important that we acknowledge the forms of connection that we do have in the current world that we live in, and we really understand that they do play a big role in our lives. And it's not just like, oh, I'm just scrolling, I'm just having a rot day and this and that, because it could be, for some people, I'm sure it is. It's a very surface level type of relationship to have with this app where it's like, oh yeah, I'm just scrolling, I don't really look, and I don't this and yada yada. But for many, many out there, me included, it's like, this is a lifeline. This is how I find out about a lot of things, and I talk to a lot of people, and I feel connected, and I learn about things like, I meet, there's people who have met their spouse through TikTok, people who have met their best friends through TikTok, people who have, like I said, have been able to be diagnosed with health issues through TikTok, or be connected with all these wonderful resources through TikTok. And, it really does become a deep-seated part of your life. And you don't really want to admit it because it sounds crazy and wild and, a little scary and a little dystopian. But call a spade a spade. It's like TikTok is an important part of my day. I look forward to my nightly scroll where I learn about anything and everything you could think of. And like I said, almost in real time. So I always feel up to date, even if I had a day where I didn't leave the house and all I did was work and then clean and then cook dinner and then this and that, and I'm exhausted. It's like, this is my wind down time, and I get to see you have a horrible day. Like, let's say you have a horrible, horrible day, the worst day of your life. Then you get to go on TikTok, you see a cute dog video, you see, someone make a funny, like, fail compilation video, or like them falling or whatever. It's like, I feel better. Or you see someone accomplish something great and they're making a TikTok about how they just had the best day of their life. And it's like, wow, there's a world that exists outside of my bad day and my own myopic view of what today was. And it brings you comfort because it reminds you that tomorrow will be better. And there's people having the best day of their lives right now and people having the worst day of their lives right now. But we all made it through. Guess what? It's, it's going to be the next day for all of us, and we're all going to get to try again. And, it's like, it sometimes makes your issue seem a little smaller, and it puts things into perspective for you. And it's really, it carries a big weight, a lot of emotional labor is being done by my TikTok app. I will tell you that much. But, anyway, I won't make this episode too rambly because this is my first solo one, and I am still finding the groove on how to do these solo episodes. So feel free to sound off in the comments. I was going to do a more scripted type of video, but I felt like it wouldn't do it justice to sort of the passion that I have about the subject if I was reading from a script and it was kind of more produced. I wanted to just have like an honest conversation, especially if TikTok gets ripped away from us once again. I want my page to sort of be an outlet for people to watch and connect with me and feel like they're talking to a friend and not a computer. So I ended up going not super produced with it, but let me know if you'd prefer it another way, or, if there's an episode you want me to talk about anything in particular. I'm happy to film it. I'm happy to do it. Follow us on socials. God knows, TikTok, I don't know. If TikTok is up when I post this, great. Follow me on TikTok. If it's down, I'm trying my best to not use Meta apps so much, but I guess follow the Instagram. You can email me, scarycoolpodcast@gmail.com, any episode topics you want. We're Scary Cool Podcast on most social medias, and on YouTube you can subscribe. You can turn on the alarm when I post. Again, I have no idea when I'm going to post next because I just happen to have the time today. But if TikTok is back, let me tell you, it might be another month before I post another video, but I'm going to try to post more. I appreciate you listening. I am glad I got to talk about this, and I'm glad that TikTok is back for now, but who knows, when I post this, maybe it won't be. So once again, the lag from filming the content to putting the content out, a lot could have happened by now because it's probably 2 days later. So, we could be all taken over by aliens by now, which would not be that far off because they do exist, right? We've been told, underwater somewhere. But anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for dealing with my rant about social connections. And my advice to you would be join groups, do what you love, find your passions, hobbies and things that you love, and put yourself into that, and really try to build community, because you don't realize how detrimental it is to not have community until your community is taken away, and all those horrible feelings start bubbling up inside you. So, build community, be happy that you have community, thank your community. And, that's all I really can tell you, because God only knows what the future holds. We certainly don't. We went without TikTok and now it's back, and it's a really fun roller coaster that we're all riding together. But anyway, thank you for listening. Subscribe, follow, listen, review, rate, do all of everything that you can with a podcast. And I'll see you in the next episode, I guess. Bye.